we need to be able to think outside of our own head, look around, recognize that not everybody, has the same experience as we do, and it's really important just to give everyone a little grace.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
Welcome to Health in the Real World. We're here today with Sara Fleming. Sara, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Start with just a quick introduction as far as what you've done in the past with fitness, with health, and then kind of what you're doing now as well.
Well, before I ever became a trainer, I spent about 10 years as a medical researcher. I have a master's degree in biochemistry from Georgetown University. And so a lot of the things that when I started to get into fitness, which I did as a way to have a flexible job when I was home with 3 young children, I applied everything through the lens of science, which for me worked great because, there's so many black box ideas when it comes to fitness, like do this thing really hard and you'll get this result. And it's like, but why?
Right.
So I found myself constantly asking why. In fact, I was a trainer at a CrossFit gym for a year, and I just found that most people need a lot more of a fitness foundation. And if you take the time to build that, you can actually take them far beyond where they are currently stuck or think they can get. So while I was at that gym, I'd started working with some teenage girls and coached them for Olympic weightlifting. And one of them ended up going on to be one of the top pole vaulters in the state because she developed, just great explosive strength and athleticism. And then I've gone on to coach a lot of strength sports, powerlifting, weightlifting. I compete in Highland Games, which if you don't know what that is, if you've ever seen someone throwing a tree while in a kilt, that's Highland Games.
The Highland Games are so cool. It's like, it's awesome. I'm part Scottish, so I feel like it's my heritage right there, but
It's a lot of fun. I'm still involved in educating trainers. I wrote a group fitness course for one training organization that's taught as part of their online college, and I also teach intro to chemistry and college math for them as well.
Nice.
I've always really enjoyed working with other trainers and coaches, and a group of colleagues and I, for several years, actually we had made a seminar where we went to different gyms and basically taught them the practical side of foundational fitness. A lot of these gyms were CrossFit gyms. Again, they were trying to, find ways to get their training more productive and safe for their clients, a lot of whom, come in, they're just regular folks, they're not athletes. And, how do you get them to those higher levels of performance if they don't have that base? And so our message was build that base, and you can still push them. It can still be hard. They can still have fun, but they're going to do much better in the long term than if you just go in there and throw everything but the kitchen sink at them.
Yeah, I think that's definitely in line with what I believe and how I train my clients. Majority body weight only. Let's learn how to control this body before we even think about going to that next level. That base and that base can get wide. It can get very stable with no equipment whatsoever. And I'm sure that's probably what you're preaching to them as well, especially the CrossFitters who, CrossFit's great when you're ready for it. But I think, most people aren't ready for it, right? To be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So Sara, let's say you're at like an event, a party or something, and you meet somebody who finds out that you're into health and fitness and they make it clear that, oh, I'm just not there. I really am out of shape. What are the foundational things that you'd recommend to somebody like that? Like the one or two things that, like, first and foremost, most important?
Honestly, I get this question all the time, and if someone isn't doing anything, the very first thing I say is, well, how far can you walk? There's actually a really great book by Shane O'Mara called In Praise of Walking. He's actually a neuroscientist. So he talks about how basically the only reason we even have a brain is because we move. Plants and other organisms that are stuck, that are sessile, they have no nervous system. They don't need it because they don't move. But we have a nervous system. We have a brain. And, you know, movement is not just about our muscles and our body. It's about our cognition. It's about our mood. And when you don't move, that's what causes disease. So, we can say that cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all these diseases that we've associated with obesity are not necessarily from obesity. They're associated with not moving. I'll give you some interesting background. I'm sure you remember the whole paleo fitness movement that started in the early 2000s.
Right.
And a lot of the recommendations at the time were, we're persistence hunters, so we need to be running and lifting boulders and throwing spears and all this other stuff. The truth is, when you look at hunter-gatherer, modern hunter-gatherer societies, yes, they are very active, but they don't burn any more calories per day than we do, no matter how much we exercise. There's actually an evolutionary cap on how much energy you have to burn. What's important to remember with that is what those calories are devoted to depends on how healthy you are. If you're a healthy, in shape person, then the majority of those calories can go towards activity and maintenance of your body, and even building things to be better, building new brain cells, making your bones strong, making your muscles strong. If you are a sedentary, overweight person, the majority of those calories are going to be going towards fighting off disease and just pumping blood through your body, just doing all the basic maintenance. Mm-hmm. So the less healthy, the less fit you are, those calories are almost wasted. And in fact, in one of the papers I read, it said that a obese sedentary obese man actually burns more calories per day than an elite endurance athlete. That sounds crazy, doesn't it?
It does, right?
But, if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you take like your elite athletes, after a certain point, you can't give them enough food, sleep, or anything else. They are going to overtrain, and when that happens, their body's shut down. So there's definitely a finite amount of energy that we can burn in a day, or in a week, I guess. And so, I think when most people want to get fit, when they go into it whole hog and just, do these incredibly intense, taxing workouts, what they don't understand is that they're taking that finite amount of energy away from other activities they may be doing during the day, just basic maintenance of their body. The bulk of the calories that we burn are basal metabolic rate. It's not exercise. Yeah. And so I always tell people, you've got to start off gentle. You've got to start off at a level that it's not going to compromise your health or the rest of your ability. Like if you go and do a crazy workout and then you can't play with your kids in the afternoon, but walking, just the act of getting up out of a chair and standing up, stimulates those muscles. It stimulates our brain. And the more often we can do that, just like I said, get up out of your chair and walk around every hour, the healthier you're going to be. And you may in fact be healthier than if you go to the gym in the morning, kill yourself for an hour, and then sit at your desk all day.
Yeah. And, I think it's interesting what you said about, go slow. And I think this is something that people who don't have a lot of fitness experience, they really don't realize how slow our bodies are to adapt. Like they really are efficiency machines, right? They are not going to add a pound of muscle unless your body absolutely has to. And, so one current example I use with this is, when COVID started, it's been about 6 months or so, right? I took my whole business. I used to be in the gym, and now I'm doing online. Most of my training was very body weight focused anyway. And so it was kind of a seamless transition. And so now I do 3 classes in the morning. I go 7, 8, and 9 a.m. So back to back for 3 hours straight. I do the workout with all my clients for the full 3 hours. And you can imagine, and I was a fit guy even going into this, but I was hurting. Like I remember by, by Wednesday, even I was done. Right. And I would sleep for a long time on the weekends. It took my body probably 6 weeks, fit individual, 6 weeks to adopt to a 3 hour workout. Now it feels great. Like 3 hours, I'm like, cool, that's my foundation. Now I can go run, I can go lift. But so as far as how quickly the body adapts, I think people need to realize that. And I think that's a good point that you made. Um, what do you tell your clients? Let's say you've been going along for a while, they've had some successes with powerlifting or whatever else you're giving them. Um, what do you tell somebody who sort of falls off the wagon? Like they lose their motivation, or maybe they've been making some decisions that are leaving them tired. Maybe they're eating poorly or what have you. What would you tell that person?
It's actually a conversation I have with a lot of folks. And I'll tell you, I have a guy, he won IPF Worlds as a master's lifter in 2018.
Wow.
51 years old. He deadlifted 660 pounds.
Very impressive.
And he came off of that and he just stalled for a while. And he gained a bunch of weight and then he called me up one day and he was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know why I feel so bad. And I was like, well, basically you broke up with your girlfriend. And what I meant by that is he had spent so much time with this goal, and he finally achieved it. And then he didn't know what to do from there. And I told him this. I think sometimes when we're so focused on performance or we're so focused on hitting one goal, we do actually neglect other things in our life. And I did a figure contest last year, and I thought the organizer actually gave a tremendously good advice to everybody right before we all got on stage. He said, you've got to understand when you're training at this level, it's incredibly self-centered. He said, you need to go home and, you've gotten your body in peak condition. Now use it to spend some time with your family, go for some walks, go for some, just do things with your family and refocus, because again, we are body and mind, and our emotional health is just as important as our physical health. And so often when you see people that are burned out or fell off the wagon, they're missing something. They weren't getting something out of that training. And maybe they just need to back off and take it easy for a while. I'm in full support of long walks and just body weight exercise for most people. That's all most people need. And pushing into those higher levels of performance or demanding training sessions can, leave you feeling a little over stressed sometimes.
So what about you personally? Is there an area in health and fitness that you struggle with personally, and how have you combated that to overcome that?
I love pie. I love to eat. I love to cook. Food is my love language. So actually, and I'm a little stubborn. I have a hard time taking my own advice. So the reason I ended up doing a figure contest last year is because I hired a coach. I think that's the smartest thing you can do for yourself if you're having trouble with motivation or focusing on something. I guess I had been training strictly as a strength athlete for a long time, and I decided I needed some more endurance in my life, and so I trained for a half marathon. And for the first time in my life, I had really terrible knee pain, and so I stopped working out altogether. I was having a really hard time getting motivated to kind of get back on the wagon. Now, if it was one of my power lifters, I would say, do some bodybuilding, go out and walk, do some rehab for yourself. But I couldn't quite force myself to do it, so I hired a bodybuilding coach.
Nice.
And so she took control of my food, and she took control of my workouts. And honestly, it wasn't terrible, but knowing I had that accountability to someone else sort of took the pressure off me. And I really think that's accountability to a friend or a coach or to someone else can sometimes just kind of help carry you through those rough patches. That's honestly what I typically do when I can't
Yeah.
give myself a kick in the pants. I get someone else to do it for me.
That's great advice. I think a lot of people probably struggle with that. A lot of trainers, I'm sure, I know I do, taking my own advice, like the, what do they say? The cobbler with no shoes type of thing, right? It's like, or the cobbler's kids have no shoes.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very easy to just say, all right, like you said, your trainer took over your food. Like, just tell me what to eat, tell me how to move, and I'll do it.
Hmm.
And, being teachable, that kind of thing definitely is, a lot easier than trying to come up with it yourself and then being accountable to only yourself.
Yeah,
Definitely.
because I can very easily talk myself out of things.
Right. um, so Sarah, I want to sort of wrap up the show with a very big picture question. So we're sort of getting out of the health and fitness realm and going more toward life in general. And you are invited to a university to give the talk at the graduation. And so you're talking to, kids in their early 20s or young adults in their early 20s, about, different, I guess, different values and different success strategies and things like that that you'd recommend. What's kind of like your 1 to 2 minute motivational speech to those graduates?
I think if COVID has shown us anything, it's that a lot of us tend not to see the struggles that others are going through. A lot of us don't show it. We may all be having a hard time. And honestly, I think probably the best advice, and I tell this to my kids all the time, is just be kind to people. You have no idea what they're going through. Kindness is contagious. Have some compassion for your fellow man. It's really easy to compress others into a two-dimensional caricature of, that's angry Bob, or that's that girl, she's crazy. But we are social animals. We work better together when we, are able to extend a little understanding to one another. And so, honestly, I think, just our future in general, as a country, as a nation, as just people being able to interact with each other, we need to be able to think outside of our own head, look around, recognize that not everybody, has the same experience as we do, and it's really important just to give everyone a little grace.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think that's great. That's one thing about the internet that I think you mentioned, the two-dimensional person, right?
Hmm.
If you're if you're seeing somebody's opinion just on the screen, right? It's there's no depth to that. It's hard to know where that opinion's coming from, and I think it's, especially in the days of COVID where we are not interacting with as many people face to face, and I think that's great advice.
Yeah, I tell it to my kids. I do think this next generation is a little bit removed in terms of interacting with each other, and
Yeah.
I just think the more time, we can spend together not talking about politics. It's great.
Is a good idea. Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. I want to give you a chance to tell people how to find you if they want to maybe work with you, or what kinds of things you have going on right now as well. Maybe even talk
Um,
about your book real quick too.
well, my book is, yeah, Fitness Without Fear. And it's basically just, it's directed entirely at these folks that are just like, I don't know where to get started. I don't know what to do. And, I want to debunk a lot of those myths like no pain, no gain. Like that shouldn't have any place in, beginning training. And also just, using some of the concepts that I learned in the science lab to help, kind of assess yourself and take control. Because one of the most powerful motivators when it comes to exercise is having some autonomy, having control over what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and just giving people a path where they can kind of forge their own way. Because I know a lot of folks that, what is it, like 50 to 60% of Americans don't do any exercise at all. So I'd really like to give them a little bit of guidance and some inspiration. It's okay if all you do is go for a walk, because going for a walk is really good for you. So I'm on Instagram as Have Fun Get Strong. I also have a blog, havefun-getstrong.com.
Nice.
And my book announcements are under my profile on LinkedIn, and also I have another Instagram account, Sara Fleming Author. So if anybody wants to ask me any questions, they are always welcome to.
Well, Sara, thanks again for taking the time out of your day and joining me today, and all the best to you.
And to you too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.